بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, I testify that there is no true God worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad is Allah's true slave and messenger. We continue the discussion on the useful ways of leading a happy life, written by Sheikh Abdul Rahman bin Nasir As-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, may Allah's mercy be upon him, and we have reached chapter number 4. He said rahimahullah ta'ala, among the necessary causes of happiness and cessation of grief and worry is striving to remove the things that bring about grief and acquire those that bring about happiness. This is achieved by forgetting the unpleasant things that have passed, and he has no power to bring them back, and knowing that occupying his mind with them is meaningless. In fact, it is stupidity bordering on lunacy. Therefore, he has to struggle with his mind not to think of them. He should also struggle with his mind not to worry over the future, and not to pay attention to illusions of poverty, fear, or other unpleasant things he is imagining will descend on him in the future. He should know that nobody knows what will happen in the future, whether good or evil, or pleasure or pain. This is in the hands of Allah alone. The slave has no control over it. His only due is to struggle to accomplish what will benefit him in the future and ward off harm from him. He should also know that when the slave turns his mind away from worrying over the future in his affairs and relies on his Lord for its betterment, and is satisfied that his Lord will do that for him, when he does all of that, his heart will be tranquil, and his condition will be good, and his worries and anxieties will vanish. Number 9. Amongst the most beneficial things to do concerning the future of one's affairs is to be saying the prayer, the dua, the invocation that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say. Allahumma aslih li dini alladhi huwa ismatu amri. O Allah, make my religion, which is my strength and invisibility, good for me. وأصلح لي دنياي التي فيها معاشي, and make my world wherein is my livelihood good for me. وأصلح لي آخرتي التي إليها معادي, and make my hereafter, which is my final abode, good for me. واجعل الحياة زيادة لي في كل خير, and make my living an increase for me in all that is good. والموت راحة لي من كل شر, and make my death a repose for me from every evil. And also his invocation, the Prophet ﷺ's invocation, Allahumma rahmataka arju. O Allah, it is your mercy that I have hope in. فلا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين, so don't leave me to myself even for the blink of an eye. وأصلح لي شأني كله لا إله إلا أنت, and make good my affairs, all of them. There is no God worthy of being worshipped but you. If the slave says this invocation, which entails seeking the betterment of his future, both in terms of his religion and his worldly affairs, if he says that with a mindful and aware heart and a true and sincere intention, coupled with an earnest struggle to achieve it, Allah will definitely materialize for him what he asked for and had hoped in and struggled to achieve. As a result of this, his worry will change to happiness and delight. Chapter 5. Number 10. Among the most beneficial things that remove worries and anxieties when a calamity befalls a person is for him to struggle to lighten its difficulties by imagining the worst possible thing that would have happened to him and to try to put up with. Then let him physically strive as much as possible to lighten the difficulty. By his striving for what will benefit him and by his effort in putting up with it, his worries and anxieties will vanish, and he will have used his energy in achieving what is beneficial and warding off what is harmful within normal human ability. So, if some dreadful things or illnesses or poverty and deprivation of wants afflict him, he should encounter that with tranquility and try as much as possible to put up with it. In fact, he should prepare himself to put up with something worse. This is because preparing oneself mentally to deal with unpleasant things makes them light and blunts the pangs of their pains. This is especially so when, in addition to that, he physically acts to ward them off. This becomes more meaningful. Or by that he joins together the dual acts of mentally preparing himself to deal with the calamity and the physical effort to ward off the worries, which together serve to engross him away from being troubled and disturbed by the calamity itself. He should also make an earnest effort to replenish his inner energy necessary for encountering these adversities. In addition, to all this, he must absolutely depend on Allah in all circumstances and have sincere trust in Allah. There is no doubt that these things are very helpful in bringing about happiness and satisfaction to the heart. And besides that, there is what he hopes to gain of reward in both this life and the next one. This is well known from experience, and whoever tastes it knows it. Chapter 6.11. Amongst the greatest cures to nervous and mental disorders and even other illnesses of the body is the firmness of the heart and its strength and lack of its being troubled and perturbed by illusions and imaginations brought about by evil thoughts. This is because whenever a person lets imaginations get the better of him and allows his heart to be perturbed by negative effects like fear of illness or anger and confusion over some painful situation or anxiety over something bad happening or over the expected loss of cherished things, whenever he lets that happen, it will surely throw him into the den of grief, sorrow, and physical and mental illness, and a nervous breakdown whose terrible effects are well known to all. 12th point. Whenever a person relies and depends on Allah and does not surrender his heart to illusions and does not let evil imaginations get the better of him and puts his trust in Allah and has confidence in his favor, grief and sorrow will vanish from his heart as a result of these actions, and many physical and mental illnesses will leave him, and his heart will experience such joy and tranquility that are beyond expression. How many a hospital is filled with sick people suffering from mental illusions and evil imaginations? How many a strong person have these things shattered their hearts, to say nothing of the weak ones? The only one exempted is the one whom Allah has given well-being and guided him to struggle with his self in acquiring useful and beneficial means of strengthening the heart and warding off worries from it. Allah the Most High said, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever puts his trust on Allah, this is in Surah Al-Talaq 65 verse 3. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever puts his trust on Allah, sufficient is Allah for him. Sufficient is Allah for him. Meaning that Allah is sufficient for him in all that worries him concerning his religion and his worldly life. A person who puts his trust in Allah has a strong heart that is not affected by illusions nor perturbed by events and occurrences, because he knows that that is from a weak heart and is an act of weakness and fear that has no reality. He also knows that Allah has guaranteed the one who puts his trust in him to suffice him completely. So he is confident in Allah and he feels assured of the promise of Allah, as a result of which his worry and anxiety vanish and his difficulty is replaced by ease, and his sadness by happiness, and his fear by peace and security. We ask Allah to give us well-being and exemption from adversities, and to grant us strength of heart and its firmness in having a true confidence in Him, by which He guarantees those who have it provision of all good and removal of all harm and evil. Chapter 7, point 13. There are two important lessons to learn from the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said concerning the wife. He said in the hadith, which is reported by Muslim, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إن كره منها خلقا رضي منها آخر. A believing man, husband, should not hate a believing woman, wife. If he dislikes one character in her, he will like another one. Two important lessons are to be learned here. The first is, it gives guidance in the way to deal with wives, relations, friends, colleagues, and anyone with whom you have a relationship or association. It teaches that you have to prepare yourself to accept the fact that any person with whom you have one sort of relationship or another will definitely have imperfections, bad qualities, or some character that you would not like. So if you find that in him, think of what is incumbent on you or proper for you to do regarding maintaining the ties of relationship and preserving the bond of love and affection between you. Bring to mind his good qualities and the importance the religion attaches to maintaining good social relations. By overlooking bad qualities and bringing to mind the good ones, bonds of relationship and good companionship are maintained, and this is another source of harmony. The second lesson is that it teaches us how to ward off grief and worry and bring about an honest and sincere relationship in which each party fulfills his obligations and dues to the other, and harmony is maintained between them. The one who does not work with his teaching or with this teaching of the Prophet ﷺ and does the opposite, whereby he busies himself with noticing the bad qualities and ignoring the good ones, there is no doubt that he will be overtaken by worries and anxieties, and there is no doubt also that the bond of love that is between him and those he loves will be cut, and many of the rights and obligations of both parties will be flouted. Many people with high aspirations and inner energy are able to prepare themselves to deal with heavy calamities and adversities with patience and tranquility. But when they are faced with small and trivial issues, they become worried and anxious, and their hearts lose their clarity of thought and become turbid. The reason behind this is that they were able to prepare themselves to deal with major situations, and they ignored the minor ones, and as a result of which the things they regarded as insignificant took them off their guard and unsettled their peace. The real strong person prepares himself to deal with both great and insignificant issues and asks the help of Allah in that, and that Allah does not leave him to himself even for the blink of an eye. When he does that, the small issues become easy for him to handle just as the big ones, and he maintains his composure, happiness and tranquility. Chapter 8. Point 14. The intelligent person knows that his real life, in the life he lives in happiness and tranquility, and that it is very short indeed. And that it is very short indeed. Therefore, he should not make it shorter. Therefore, he should not make it shorter. He should not make it shorter by allowing grief and mourning over troubles to get the better of him, because that is the opposite of real living. He should be very covetous of his life, so that most of it does not become the loot of worries and troubles. And in this there is no difference between both the good and the bad people, except that the believer has a more complete and perfect realization of this fact and makes better use of it for the good of both this world and the hereafter. 15th point. When something unpleasant happens to him, or he is afraid that it will happen to him, he should remember the other blessings of Allah on him in his religion and worldly life, and compare them with the unpleasant thing. If he does that, he will realize how abundant are the blessings of Allah on him, and how insignificant are the troubles that befell him. He should also compare between his fear in the evil that may possibly befall him, and the many other possibilities of safety and deliverance from that evil that may occur. Therefore, he should not let a weak and insignificant possibility outweigh stronger and more numerous possibilities. By this, his fear and anxiety will fade away. He should also assume the occurrence of the worst possible trouble on him, and then prepare himself to deal with it if it occurs, and strive as much as possible to ward it off if it has not occurred, or remove or lighten it if it has occurred. 16th point. Among the useful things to remember is to know that what people do to hurt you, especially slander and other evil talk, will not hurt you. Rather, it is them that it hurts. The only way it will hurt you is when you occupy yourself with grieving over it and allow it to get the better of your feelings. When you do that, it will hurt you as it did hurt them. But if you pay no attention of it, it will not hurt you in any way. 17th point. Know also that your life is subservient to your thoughts. If you engage your thoughts in what is useful to you in your religion and your worldly life, then your life will be good and happy. Otherwise, the opposite will be the case. 18th point. Among the most useful ways to drive away grief is to train yourself not to desire thanks and gratitude from anyone except Allah. So if you do good to someone who has a right over you, or has no right over you, then know that your deal is with Allah, and don't pay any heed to the thanks and gratitude of the one to whom you were good. This is as Allah the Most High said regarding His elite among creation, as in Surah Al-Insan, verse 9, 76, verse 9, إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. They say, we feed you for the sake of Allah alone. No reward do we desire from you, nor thanks. This is more important when dealing with the family, children, or any other person strongly connected to you. Whenever you make it your habit to drive away evil from them, you rest in peace, and make others also rest in peace. Among the things that make life easy for you is to follow a natural path in your effort to do righteous and excellent actions, and avoid constraining yourself to follow an unnatural path that will fill your heart with worries and anxieties, and you end up going nowhere in attaining the excellent positions. This is because you followed a crooked path. All this is wisdom. Also make use of the moments of turbidity and turn them to moments of sweetness and clarity. By that, the sweetness of your pleasures will increase and your troubles will vanish. 19th point. Make the attainment of useful things your goal and strive to realize them, and pay no attention to harmful things. This will occupy you away from the things that bring about grief and sorrow. Seize moments of leisure and mental concentration to accomplish important activities. 20. Among the useful things to do is on-the-spot accomplishment of your activities, so that the future may be free for you. This is because if you don't finish your present activities at once, others will come and pile themselves upon you, and they will join forces to oppress you. But if you accomplish each activity in its time, future activities will find you prepared and strong physically and mentally. 21. When undertaking useful things, you should rank them in order of priority and importance. Find out the one which you have a stronger urge to do, and which yourself desires more. Its opposite will bring about boredom, weariness, and irritation. Seek help in good thinking and good counsel. It is said that the one who seeks good counsel never regrets. Study what you intend to do carefully and thoroughly. When you are certain of the good that is in it and resolve to do it, then rely on Allah, and know that Allah loves those who rely on Him. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family and the companions. And also we say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His mercy and forgiveness be bestowed upon the Shaykh Abdul Rahman ibn Nasir As-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala for this excellent treatise and benefits in it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. This brings the end of this treatise, the useful ways of leading happy life, on this night, the night of the 15th of Dhul Hijjah, corresponding to the night of January 25th 2005. والحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات.